with John Kranyak, one of the key cogs in one of the hotter teams in bridge, the Spectre team. A good friend of mine, a as good of a bridge player is, he's a better guy. And John Kranyak, I'm really excited to have you on the setting trick.
Oh, me too, Johnny Mac. Thanks for having me. Super excited to be here. Super excited to share some of my feelings about bridge and just talk with a good friend.
Where so you were living in Greenville, South Carolina, with your wife who recently completed med school.
Yep. That's exactly it. So pretty much, I lived in New York City. I got a girlfriend, Allison, formerly Hunt, now Kranyak. We were married in 2018. And the year before, I moved down as she was finishing college. And I lived with her parents for like 6 or 7 months. And then when she got accepted into medical school, we moved to Greenville, South Carolina. For anybody who doesn't know, Greenville is a nice town, sort of in the upcountry of South Carolina at the base of like the Appalachian Mountains. And it's a wonderful little town that is actually growing at quite an alarming rate. And they have a wonderful bridge tournament every other year in like early to mid June. And it used to be like one of my favorite regionals, which is when Allison got the interview there or got accepted there. It was pretty exciting for me because I knew I loved the city.
Right.
We lived there for 4 years and now my she's in residency. She's starting her internal medicine preliminary year, first year of residency at Dartmouth Hitchcock Hospital, and now we're in Hanover, New Hampshire. So quite a quite a change, although we've just sort of moved here and we're actually staying at a residence inn for a couple weeks until our lease until we can move in. So trying to sort of get the lay of the land and it's a little bit different, but there's some similarities. Both are very like outdoorsy type cities, which we like. I like to go on bike rides and go running on trails and stuff like that. We went on a little nature walk yesterday, and I think I got bitten by like 8 million bugs. Yeah, it's like, you know what? I got to wear bug spray, like lesson learned.
Are there any bridge players that you know already in Hanover?
I have a couple friends that live in like Massachusetts in the Boston area. I don't know anybody who lives in Hanover. I'm kind of wondering if the Dartmouth College has a bridge team. If they do, maybe I'll stop by a couple days while Allison's working. She's slated to work somewhere between like 55 and 80 hours a week. So I think I'll have a lot of downtime. And so maybe I'll try to help out a little bit with that. Found they have a poker room, and I used to play poker. So I'm kind of getting back into that, but it's not a huge poker room, but I played a couple times already, and it's fine. The guys are nice. It's good to be back in the flow a little bit, but it won't be anything serious, but maybe like a once or twice a week thing. Yeah.
How much time do you even spend at home? Like you're a professional bridge player. I know you were in Tampa recently on a team with Adam Grossack, and
Yeah, so I mean, I would say before COVID, I was traveling somewhere around like a third to a half of the year. Maybe some years a little bit more, maybe some years a little bit less, but that was sort of during COVID. Obviously, all my work switched to online. And, I think Allison sort of appreciated that I was now home all the time. It was, at first, it was a little bit of a different thing for me just because I'm not used to working every day,
yeah,
like have
yeah,
playing
yeah,
like 4 weeks in a row,
yeah.
I mean, I used to play tournaments 4 weeks in a row, but then I'd have like 4 or 5 weeks off. So, but I think I adjusted pretty well and I enjoy it. And, now that the tournaments are coming back, it's really nice to have like a supplemental sort of thing where I'm at home and, there's not really too much professional bridge at the club. But so now being able to sort of replace that club bridge from when I was like living in New York is pretty nice to do. But now, I mean, I'll sort of see how often I'm going to be. I'm going to sort of try to play as many regionals as possible, but I don't know how that's going to come out. As you probably know, the regionals have seemed like smaller,
Yeah.
and it's kind of a question, I question whether that trend will continue or people will come back. I think, as the COVID restrictions are loosened and, people are ready to come back and travel, I think there will be some period of time where they're trying to do vacations that they missed or do cruises. And I'm not sure how many of them bridge will be their first thing back. I've also noticed that a lot of the beginner levels at the tournaments have seen that's where the biggest drop in attendance has been. And I don't know how that bodes for regionals in general. I'm not really too sure about the logistics of, how many people you can get to come to the tournament versus how many rooms, and how that does. So it'll definitely, it's a little bit scary seeing how that will, progress, but maybe it is a point in my life where I play less regionals or that the ACBL in general has less regionals and they sort of become bigger tournaments like they used to be in like the 60s and 70s and 80s, where like if you won a regional pair game, you were the who's who. If you won a regional knockout, that was like almost like winning a national knockout. So maybe it'll sort of semi return to that, and there won't be so many tournaments that can be held just because you don't have that 99ers to 299ers that are playing at the rate that they were playing before COVID. And that's unfortunate, I mean, I think a lot of the people that started at that time they started online as opposed to starting live. So now they're not used to going to a tournament. And I don't know if that's true. I just know of a couple people who, started playing during COVID, but they played online. So like this whole idea of playing bridge live in person is like totally foreign to them, whereas before COVID, I had a lot of clients that playing online was totally foreign to them, and
Right.
they totally changed their mentality about it. And now they used to play at the club every day, and then the club shut down and they were like, what am I going to do with my life? And then they learned to play online, and guess what? They play online every day.
Yeah.
So like, it's nice to be able to see that. And it goes to show like, no matter how unfamiliar you are with a new thing, you can always learn it. So like being unfamiliar with bridge on the computer and what the rules were, you can always learn it. And that's nice to see.
Well, this conversation sort of impetus in part was I had a nice conversation with you and your partner Vince Demouy in Chicago at the team trials, and one question I had is, do you ever like you always seem like you're in a pretty like upbeat, positive frame of mind. Like take the trials for example. Was there any point where you like were like on tilt at all or like upset? Like does that happen for you?
Well, certainly. I mean, certainly in my younger days, I was much more of what you might call like a tilt monkey. And for people who don't know what that term means, it means, if something bad to you happens at the card game, you might just kind of lose all sensibilities and freak out. And I think over the years, I've learned to handle that. I think poker, as I used to play poker, really helped me with that because if you go on tilt and poker, you could lose a lot of money in a very short amount of time. If you go on tilt and bridge, you could get a lot of bad boards in a short amount of time, but it's not like you're losing, months worth of salary or, even more on really, really, bad days. So, sort of understanding that bridge, you're always going to have mistakes. You're always going to have situations where you wanted to do the right thing and you didn't do it and it was right. You're just always going to have it. And like, Bob Hammond was always the best at saying and practicing, having a short memory,
Yeah.
like being a goldfish, right?
Yeah.
Goldfish have the shortest memory of any,
Right.
like
Right.
that's what I would tell like all my students, be a goldfish, forget anything bad that's happened and then continue on. and try to do the best. But certainly there's moments of tilt, 100 times. I mean, like one of the more tilting things that has happened to me recently was we were playing the Bermuda Bowl in Salsa Maggiore, Italy. And I don't know how many of your viewers sort of know what the Bermuda Bowl is, but, I'd be lying if I didn't say it was like the best tournament to play in the world. I mean, it only happens, once every other year. It's a world championship, so it's only the best teams from every country usually. And it's a super grind, long, drawn out tournament. Used to be a little longer, I think, than it is now, but it's definitely, it's I would equivocate it to the World Series of Poker main event.
Right.
Playing poker versus playing in that main event is just like kind of a whole nother animal, and like everybody's there to try to bring their A game. But we were doing pretty good, and we went and we played a match against the Netherlands. And I think maybe at the time they were leading or they were second. They were doing good. They're a great team, I mean, there's no doubt about it. And on any given day, they could just smoke us, like no problem, right? And on any given day, we could smoke them too, like don't get me wrong, but we played like, I think it was like, I forget if they were like 15 board sets or something like that, but like Vince and I did like 6 slams. Okay. And like most of them were like 50% or better, or, like, and we had some like good auctions that we kind of knew they were at least 50, but maybe better, maybe a little bit worse, but like none of them came home, and like even like on another one, like we were in a 7-no, so like we didn't really get to test like everything, whereas they were in a 7 diamonds and it kind of just like played out a little bit differently.
Right.
Like Vince didn't have the luxury of doing some extra stuff. And I mean, to be fair, like the guy in 7 diamonds at the other table, at some point he had like king, queen, 10, 6 of spades opposite ace and 1. And I think he played like ace of spades and a spade to the 10. And I was just like, it was Jack fourth on side. And it was like, he knew that like nobody had pitched spades. I'm sure he was kind of like looking around at everybody like, how the spades doing? And at our table, the guy actually like led a spade from Jack fourth. But it was like my only entry was in the spade suit. So like Vince couldn't just like win the 10-9 and the dummy and clean. I needed like the 10 of diamonds instead of the 9 of diamonds or something silly like that. But that was definitely around that, like, after like the first 3, I was like, oh man, I'm about to steam like my brains out. You don't know, And then like it happened twice more, like boom, boom. And, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to laugh at this set. Going to try to get some back, like whatever. Let's go on, It's only one match. We get 0 this match. It's fine. Like we got a whole bunch of other matches to play. It's a really long Swiss team. And the worst thing I could do for me and my team is like let that one match affect board 1 of the next match, because it's a whole new score, like it's now 0-0. I don't got to pick up 65 imps in 3 boards, anymore. So, I mean, I think we got like smoked bad that match. And then I think, we did pretty well, and we were in a position, there were like Switzerland, the Netherlands, were pretty much like 1, 2 or somewhere around there for most of the event. And like we were like 3, like a little bit back. And we had a couple chances to like get up to the top, but like, we finished 3rd in the round robin, kind of like a healthy 3rd,
Right.
And then we lost to a really tough Norway team. It was sort of like we had a choice of picking either Norway or the other USA team. And it wasn't really much of a decision. I mean, like Norway's like a great team. Right? Yeah, this is the nickel team. I mean, like you don't get rich by picking the nickel team. So, I mean, we picked Norway, who, trust me, you never want to pick players like Helge Mohelnes and Boya playing with his new partner Christian, and even Terje and his partner they've been around the block a million times, so like we didn't have a good choice,
What was the decision though? Actually, like, take me through the actual like mechanics. Did you guys even talk about it, or
I
like
mean,
where
we
were
talked
you?
about it, but I think more for just or more, I don't know if even really the word, but just, like we felt we owed it to ourselves to talk about it. I would say that like we feel like we play better against the nickel team than a lot of other people do. Like we've
Yeah,
known these guys for like 100 years, and like we don't really get scared by them.
yeah,
And now that's not saying that they're not gonna, just like be better than us some days,
right.
right? But like, we're not letting, that sort of outside juju come into our play. So, we were fairly confident that we had a chance to beat the nickel team, but there was also some sort of like if if we pick the USA, then if we won, then we would probably get like another like hard European team. So like if we pick Norway, now if we preferred to play the USA over those other teams, if us and the USA both won, we would be forced to play in the semifinals.
Right, yeah,
So that was, I really didn't, I mean, in the end, we were a USA team that's probably never going to pick another USA team.
yeah. Right.
I think that, I don't know if that, it's certainly not in the bylaws, but it's certainly something that is like, maybe it's an unwritten rule. I'm not sure if it is, but, somewhat. And then we played Norway. We were like down 3. And then Johnny Hurd and Kevin got COVID.
Really?
And yeah, so they weren't able to play the rest of the time.
Oh wow.
And, I mean, they're two great players,
Yeah.
and that sort of, I mean, even though all of our team, are great players, it's, having to now, you've played for so many days and then having to like switch up your routine and play extra boards,
Right.
it's a different sort of thing. And, I'd be lying if I didn't feel in my mind that they sort of like I'm not taking anything away from how they played. They played great against us. They were going to be tough to beat. It felt to me like they got a little lucky. I mean, we lost by 60. I'm not saying that they got 60 imps worth of the luck, but any, 11 or 12, it sort of changes a little bit of the
Yeah.
momentum. So, I mean, look, it was a great experience. I don't think that it was the best way that the whole, it wasn't great how it went down, but I love playing in the Bermuda Bowl. It's my third time playing, and it's just great every time. And it's nice that I'm no longer playing against cheaters in the Bermuda Bowl or people who have been convicted of cheating. So that was nice. I felt that this was a very clean tournament. And even though it seems like people were getting COVID there, I think that I don't know if they were necessarily getting it from the bridge room or if it was just sort of Omicron kind of super spreading throughout. Like obviously it's a much more contagious virus now than it was when we first started. And I think that there was really not much that could have been done to prevent that. And judging, as far as I know, anybody who was sick there or was around people who were sick, nobody had serious health issues, which is great because, at the if you do have 1 or 2 people that have serious health issues because of it, that raises a whole new problem. So,
Is the nickel team less intimidating with Meckwell?
I don't think so. I mean, maybe to certain people, and I think sort of to maybe like foreign pairs, especially older foreign pairs that have, known about Jeff and Eric for like all these years. But like, I don't see how you can like look at Hampson and Greco and be like, yeah, they're nothing. I mean, they're 2 of the best players in the world, like hands down. Like so like. I don't think that you can like really say that any pair is better than they are, on any given day. Like maybe if you put a gun to my head and say, okay, pick a pair and they're gonna play against some like super aliens, like I might not pick them, But if you told me that was my pair, I'd be like, all right, let's go. Like, so, and Bobby and Steve historically have been great. So like, I think it's more of a me being less intimidated by any bridge player as I've gotten older and
Right.
as, I've, not perfected, but improved my partnership with Vince. I think that that's a lot. It's a reflection of that, and I think that our team, since we've been doing, very well post COVID, I think we're really at like not only a high bridge playing level, but a high confidence level as well, and so I mean, I'm sure to some people they're less intimidating. I'm sure to other people maybe they're more intimidating now. I don't think. I mean, I wasn't really involved or even heard any rumors like of what was going on between the Mexstroth and Rodwell, no longer playing on the nickel team and Hampson and Greco, coming on. I really didn't know that that was going to happen until it actually happened,
Right.
you know. But it didn't surprise me. I mean, Nickel was used to a lot and a lot and a lot of winning. And I think most of it is, I mean, maybe a little bit is, Jeff and Eric are getting a little bit older and maybe Nick and Ralph are getting a little bit older. But I think 99% of it has to go to the parity we see at the championship
Mm.
level. Like in the early 80s, the early 90s, like even up until the early 90s, if you were like a number 1 through 6 seed, you pretty much had like no teams you could lose to until the round of 16, maybe even the round of 8,
You're talking like in a
like
spin gold or Vanderbilt.
in a Spingold or Vanderbilt, in order to, yeah, in those big events, And now, I mean, you enter a Spingold or Vanderbilt, like certainly the top 32 teams are like almost all professional teams, right? And then you have smatterings of seeds from like 33 to 60, right? Like the rest of the field could be some guys you don't know, or like could be some dangerous players on a bad day, like so I think a lot of the reduction of the nickel team success has come from the parity
Right.
of the tournaments, and I don't really see any team in the future achieving that level of success as they did like in the early 90s. I think they won like, I don't even know what they won, but they it seemed like they won everything, like I remember I first started playing bridge and it was like 1995, and I like looked at all the records from like the years before, and they had won like Spingle, 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 Vanderbilt, Vanderbilt. It was just like they won like everything. So, and teams really haven't won sort of like every event until, Ron and Lotan. Those were the last people that pretty much did very well or won every event that they were in. So I think it's going to be a
This is a
while before.
cheating Israeli pair for those
Oh yeah,
who
for the yeah
don't know who Schwartz and
Schwartz.
Lotan Fish are.
Yeah, they're young guys. I mean, they just, I think the allure of a great lifestyle being, one of the best bridge players in the world. Being a bridge professional, it can be hard. I would say it does afford a better lifestyle than most jobs, though. Even your run of the mill bridge pro. Being a top bridge pro, is definitely a much more lucrative and fulfilling occupation than anything. And, if you don't come from an extravagant life and like all of a sudden you get taken to a nice dinner at your first tournament and it's like, well, the steak is $72. Are you kidding me right now? Like it can be pretty daunting, and I think it can make you sort of lose sight, I mean, it can make you lose sight of what's really important and why you originally loved the game, So, I mean, I don't know, I don't want to speak too much on their,
Right.
on
I
their
hear you.
things, but like to me, I don't think that you will see people win as often as they did, anymore.
Just to wrap up the last Bermuda Bowl, like I've been in the Rosenblum where we had to choose, and I think the first 16 teams got to choose, and so like literally like we finished eighth, so the first 7 teams had chosen, and so we're in a room, and I guess we had like a couple of minutes, but we had looked at the thing before,
Right.
so like, are you in a room with the first 4 teams? Like, where is this actually taking place, and what's the actual conversation between you all? Like, who's there? Because you're on a 6-person team. Are all 6 people there? Is Warren there? Warren Spectre is your team sponsor / captain. Like, I want to know like the details of this actual like. Do you look at like Gavin and say, "Hey, should we play nickel?" Or like, what do you remember from that?
I mean, so in the past, like when we picked in Bali, and I don't know if we got to pick who we played but that was like right there at the tournament because we were staying at the tournament site.
Yeah.
Or yeah, or like across the street or something.
Right.
And it was the same thing in India. Was the whole team was just kind of in the room. Maybe one or two guys were like, okay, we know what we're gonna do, whatever. Here in Italy, it was a little bit different because our team had rented a villa that was about a 9-minute drive from the playing site because the playing site was at like a congressional building or something like that. I don't even remember what it was called, but it was not at a hotel. So we actually, Kent Mignoki, our captain, he stayed at the site to do all the things.
I got
The
it.
rest of us went back to our villa and we communicated via text message.
Got it.
And that was sort of just a thing. And we pretty much had a conversation
Right.
between the
Right.
6 of us.
Right.
And obviously, Kent was just,
Right.
Kent was our
Executing the
captain, but
order.
right, he was executing the order and he was fine with whatever choice we picked. Like, I think that he did a very good job of finding out what we needed from a captain and what we didn't need from a captain.
Right.
So that was where it was, and honestly, it was like, it was like a 5-minute conversation that felt like 16 seconds. It was like, oh, what should we do? Well, I think we should do this. Okay, maybe we should think about this. Maybe we should think about this. Okay, it's our pick. Okay, Norway. That's like kind of how it went down. And it was like, I mean, it was quick. It was to the point. It was like, okay, we know what we got for tomorrow. How do we want to line up? And I think Vince and I ended up playing like a set match against Brogelin and Christian, against Boya and Christian. Because we had actually, I think, also played a set match like 2 weeks before. We lost to them in the semifinals of the Vanderbilt in Reno at the Nationals. And they play on a different team, but we still played them like every round. I think we played them like 3 rounds. Of all the rounds, we only played them. And then when it came time to play in the Bermuda Bowl, we only played them again. So like, I feel like, like if I go and I play against somebody at the next tournament and it's not those two, I'm gonna be like, where'd they go? Like, so. But yeah, I mean, in terms of the thing, it like the picking of the thing, it was different here because we had gone home,
Yeah.
But we pretty much, I mean, like we found out we were third. We pretty much knew that, like, we didn't know, but that I think the options were England, Italy, Norway, and the USA. So we kind of had a feeling that England and Italy, although I mean, you didn't have a good choice out of those four, in my opinion. But that they were probably going to be the first two picked in either order. We didn't really care, and that Norway and USA were going to be left. So we had already kind of felt that out a little bit, not knowing for sure, obviously. But yeah, when it came, it was like pretty quick. They wanted an answer quick, so it all was just like boom, boom, boom. It's like, okay, let's go get dinner.
So the Spectre team is you playing with Vince, Gavin playing with Warren Spectre, and Kevin Bathurst playing with John Hurd.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like the remnant, like a lot, the four of you guys, you and Vince and Hurd and Gavin were all on the fireman team. And you guys were kind of perennially underseeded on that team for like the KOs and stuff like that. And now this Spectre team won the Soloway knockout in Austin. You guys were USA 2 in Salsa Maggiore, I think, right?
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But then you just won the US team trials in May. Like, are you
Right.
guys finally getting seated? Do you think?
Yeah, so like I mean our team when we played with Paul, our team was the same team except for at the time Johnny Hurd played with Joel. And yeah, I mean, we definitely felt like we were underseeded, but to be fair, like I think we only won, we did well in the team trials. We won a team trials, got to go to the Bermuda Bowl, finished third in the Bermuda Bowl. That was a very big accomplishment for our team, certainly. Would have been nice to win, but we lost in the semifinals and yeah, I mean, it felt like we were like low seeded because we didn't historically have a good record in like the American knockouts, and they didn't really include like your world stuff. So even though we had some good trials results, it didn't really, it didn't help us in any way. That being said, when we played in those knockouts, I mean, we did pretty good against the teams we were supposed to beat, but we rarely beat a team that we weren't supposed to beat according to the seeds.
Right.
So might have felt like we were underrated, but we were always playing like a really good team in like the round of 32. So it definitely felt like we were underseeded. Now that we've accumulated these big jumps, we've made it into the 5 through 8 shuffle, sort of, which is it's great, being like I never really realized that like just even like a little bit of like usually in that like round of 32, it's still teams that can beat you.
Yeah.
But like just if they're just a little bit less likely to beat you, then it seems like it's easier to make it along. And I think our team is really firing on all cylinders right now. I think I mean, Johnny and Joel were always great. I'm never gonna, but I think Johnny and Kevin, even though their partnership is new, they think the same way about bridge. And it's almost like, I mean, they're great, like we have like, I have like no questions about like things that they know or whatever, because it just comes to them. It's like how they think the same way. And Warren and Gavin are really doing, Warren was a great young bridge player, and then he went on to Wall Street, and sort of as far as I think, he took a big hiatus from at least tournament bridge. I think every now and then he'd get back into it and play some money bridge, and then as he got more successful on Wall Street, he sort of started to come back and play a few tournaments, but not many. And, now I think, he's retired or semi-retired. I'm sure he does his own thing, a guy that smart, he's always doing something. And I think now that he's getting back into bridge, he's sort of, I mean, he's really focusing on it. And I mean, he's playing great. Like, Vince wasn't able to make one of the team trials, and so I played with him, and as like a new partner, it was like very straightforward, very, easy to play with. And I think going forward, him and Gavin's partnership is only going to get better. And I think they're only going to get, more used to, because like you have a partnership with somebody, you can talk as much as you want about system. But the moment you lead an ace and you don't know if your partner is giving you count, attitude, or suit preference, it's like all goes out the window. It's like, and like, oh, well, you're defending a hand and they're in 3-0 and you throw a card. When is that upside down count? When is that like I'm just throwing a card, and I mean, people play upside down count attitude, but sometimes it's just a hand that like everybody at the table knows I ain't telling my partner nothing. My partner ain't telling me nothing. It's the declarer that's got to, guess a couple cards, like we're going to get in, we're going to play a suit. He's going to win. He's going to try to guess another card, like, not like I'm like throwing that 9 out there, just like, don't worry, I got the queen. Like it's the only card in my hand, and so like I think those things will come and I think it's actually like the most underrated thing in the game because like every partnership they spend all their time talking about their system and they spend almost zero time talking about their defense. And if you go and you look, like Fantoni and Nunez were the best pair in the world because they had the best defense in the world. Now, it's a little bit different when you're switching a card one way or the other. But if even you could improve your defense, I mean, 20% effectiveness seems like it would just be like the biggest change in the world to me, because you're talking about bridge, you're talking about a difference of like percentage points at the top level, in my opinion, right? So, like, if you can improve your defense to the point where, you take an extra, quarter of a trick on a hand, that would just be like monstrous, and you'd probably be cheating. Like maybe a quarter of a trick a hand is the cheating number, according to the stats. Maybe it's only 10, a tenth of a trick or something. I don't know, but I think it's definitely like the most underrated thing in especially like top level partnerships and their discussions, because like if you have like a low level partnership or even people that don't play together, you talk for 2 seconds about your, system. It's like, what kind of key card do we play? What kind of signals do we play? What do we play over no trump? Like they're like very easy questions, But yeah, I think that the defense is definitely something that people like they never talk about. And then competitive bidding. They like never talk about it. Like what if it goes a club, a diamond, a heart, a spade? Like Vince calls that the rainbow. He's like, if it goes a club, a diamond, a heart, a spade, and I bid 2 diamonds, this guy's Q bid, what does that show? If I bid 2 spades, this guy's Q bid, what does that show? And there's so many, like a club double, a heart double. I'm not even sure what Vince and I have decided. We've switched from penalty to takeout so many times, And like, I just feel like we spent so much time on non-competitive bidding. And then now we've spent a lot of time on competitive bidding, and we have a lot of sort of what I think are new competitive agreements. Now, I'm sure some people have been playing them for 20 years, but they're sort of, we try to look for situations that we want to gain more on certain hands and lose less on others, and that's sort of our idea. And I feel like top level bridge players spend a lot more time on their system and not on their competitive system. And those are, just 2 things. I don't really know how I got on that topic, but
tell me about your partnership with Vince.
Well, it's wonderful. I was playing poker and I was playing bridge, and at the time I was playing with Richie Schwartz, which he was nice. He was a great client to play with. He's sort of, had his own opinions about certain things, and a lot of them were what I would consider like, from the 1960s or the 1970s. Like he started playing bridge at Michigan State with a bunch of other guys who like still play bridge, but like in like 1965, I think, or something like that, And the game has changed and he's changed his game, but like not to the same extent, Sometimes you're just rooted in your own beliefs, right? But Gavin, he called me. There was one year where like I had a choice between playing on one team with another partner. I don't want to say who that was, or whatever. Or I had a choice on playing with Gavin and Paul Fireman. And at the time we were playing with 2 Polish players, Chris Buras and Greg Narkiewicz. And Gavin said, and I want you to play with Vince, And so I was like, well, yeah, that is what I will do. Because I'd known Vince from juniors and he's just like always money. He's just always amazing, And sometimes he has his own, aberrations or whatever, but just like every other quote unquote best player in the world, right? So, once I heard that opportunity, it was kind of like a slam dunk, It was just like, and it all happened like pretty quick. It was like I was playing with Richie, somebody called me, they're like, do you want to play on this team? And then like a day later,
Wow.
I was like, oh yeah, that would actually probably be a pretty good idea. I just have to go back to Richie and say, and then a day later, it was like, do you want to play with Vince? And I was like, yeah, actually, I'm just gonna play with Vince, and it doesn't really even matter the money, you know. Like it didn't like, and the money wasn't, I was actually, I was getting paid more now than I was, like on the new team than I was, so that was fine. And but it was more of a, I like to play like the last quarter, and I want to start a partnership and play with that person for 40 years. I want to be the
Yeah.
Mextroth and Rodwell. I want my name to sort of be remembered as one of the great, at the time it was player. Now I've realized it's only partnership. Like there are a lot of great players out there. And when I was a kid, when I was like 17, I was like, you know what? There's not going to be like anybody else who takes up the game that will be better than me. Like, how foolish is that? like, I'm 38 years old now, and like, I look at every kid and I'm like, well, that kid could be great. Like, I realize that, like, yes, like my mind might have been predisposed to bridge. I had wonderful teachers, but there's always going to be the next guy that does something, or that knows something else, And right now, I mean, sure that on any given day there are players that are younger than me that are way better than me, on a good,
Yeah.
on a certain day, right?
Yeah.
On other days, I might play better than them for sure. But I think Vince and I have gotten to a point that pretty much nobody is super happy to play against us, no matter what. Like nobody's like, oh yay, I'm about to go play Vincent Cran, like they may think they're better than us, but they know on like board one, they might get doubled. So like, you better be ready to play, bro. Like, don't you step out, or like if you do step out, make sure your partner's got a good hand for you. I mean, we have our fair shares of like minus like 480 the hard way, right? Like two diamonds, double, making five, like, but I think we do definitely get like a lot of extra points, based on our aggressiveness of doubling, and our aggressiveness also of just like bidding and putting pressure on the opponents. And I think that that's like a totally something like I learned from poker is that like if you keep people guessing all the time, they don't get to like just play their ABC that they learned, And like when I played poker and I quit bridge for a little bit and then I came back to bridge, I saw like all these spots that were like it's unbelievable. Four people at the table, nobody knows whose hand it is. Well, like you can't make a bid that lets them tell, you got to be like, all right, four spades. You might have a three spade bid, but you got to be like four spades. So like, am I making five or like what's going on here, And it's funny because like J Law, may rest in peace, he was always about those bids. Like he'd always make them. Sometimes he'd be like four down, it'd be like whatever. Like, but is definitely something that I think Vince also like embraces. He loves like the technical percentage bid thing, but that's more like in our constructive auctions. And he is definitely like more than willing to like put the pressure on in competitive auctions and just throw, and he's also good at like he's funny. He tells me like sometimes he's like, yeah, that hand, man. I just knew you were gonna come back four spades. Like I just knew. Like I knew. Like I bid a spade. I'm sorry. I just wanted to get in there. And my man Cran's been four spades, five spades, six spades. Like whatever. Like we've had so many like ridiculously bad results on hands that it's like it's hard to like you can't really like tilt so much on hands because like it's like we've had so many more like just laughably bad hands, like we used to play precision. We had some like auction where like I thought I was showing like six hearts and five clubs, and turns out I was showing like five diamonds and five spades, and Vince thought I was showing 4x1. So it was like, all right, that's ridiculous. We had some man, we got to like six, no doubled. And like this hand had doubled like diamonds on the left, and this hand had doubled hearts on the right. We were like off two aces. It went like low to the queen, low to the queen, low to the, I mean, we lost like six tricks. It was like 1100 or 1400 and like a freely bid six no. Like we've had such stupid hands like that like if we bid a bad slam now, it's just like whatever. Like that's two part scores, we'll go on, And I think we're really good like in the part score battles. So like, that's sort of I think that's what makes, I think, the biggest difference between top level players and not top level players is, it's not necessarily the slam bidding because that's like so few and far between, like, good slams or bad slams or whatever. It's more in the competitive bidding at the low level, winning part scores, realizing when to compete, realizing, what you expect from your partner, and I think that's really what makes the biggest difference because those are the most common hands, Like I don't know the percentages, but like it's like a lot of them are part scores and a lot of them are games, and then very few are slams and almost none are grand slams, you know. So that I mean, and looking back on it, like I would have never imagined that my decision to play with Vince or that my opportunity to play with Vince would have ever come back reaping so many benefits. Like learning so much, becoming just like a great friend with Vince, you know, and becoming a better teammate, a better partner. I mean, my dad was always like great at those two things. So I kind of like learned from that. So I think I was always like a good teammate and a good partner. I think I've become better since I've been playing with Vince and since I've gotten older. I'm not always the greatest opponent. And I think that I've also gotten better, from playing with Vince and from getting older. I will say that, like, especially like top level bridge at a certain point, like, has brought out like the worst in me sometimes. But it's also, like, and especially with COVID, like now I just like look at it and it's like, it's the thing that you love the most. Why are you freaking out at like a friend about like taking 3 extra seconds like on a bid and then his partner bids and like sometimes just like dude, we're playing cards, we're trying to do the best. We're not trying to rip your face off, like we're not trying to cheat your brains out. It's just like sometimes you got to think, and sometimes you're thinking about like the dumbest thing ever, it has nothing to do. You don't even realize you hesitated or asked a question that makes your opponent think something or did something like super stupid. But I do think that, playing with Vince has made me become like even also a better opponent, and definitely like just the whole way the world works now. It's made me think a lot differently about life and about bridge and what I want to get out of it and what I want to get back to it. And, I mean, I'm not calling the director like ever again against like a little old lady that hesitates and then the other person bids. I'm just like, I'm like, and I know that some of my partners are like, well, it's what you're supposed to do. And I'm like, you know what? It's just like not anymore. It's not. It's like I couldn't leave my house for 2 years. You're telling me that I'm going to waste my time and the director's time, who probably has like 80 other people calling the director on even not as bad things as I would call the director on, and they got to walk. And I realize it's their job, but if I can make their job just a little bit easier by like, okay, you bid over 3 space, because half the time those people are taking the extra bid because their partner hesitated, but their partner was hesitating because they wanted to like double or they had no idea, and so I certainly think a lot differently about those kinds of situations, and depending on who. And I mean, look, I'm a professional, so like in certain situations, it's my duty to call the director and to explain what happened, and I get that. But in other situations where I sort of use my judgment as like, okay, this is not going to be one of those times. I feel like I'm less likely, and I'm certainly not like trying to fish for things that I don't really think I deserve. Whereas, like, maybe when I was younger and a little bit like more insecure in my life and my job, that I might have been like, oh, well, he made a little hesitation. Like they could be in like four spades making six, and I try to get it rolled back to two spades, and like now it's just like, okay, I'm over it. Yeah.
Mm.
Like, yeah, at the top levels, it might, it's different. You have a team and you have certain hesitation situations that are, but I think COVID and playing with Vince have been two of like the main things that have sort of made me a better opponent. And being married, sharing your life with somebody else, it's like it's no longer just your life, and it just makes you think about your relationships a little bit differently. And I don't know how, it just feels that way,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
but yeah, I mean, I could have never imagined how good a decision this was. Like you can only
Right.
go through life making what you think is the best decision at every opportunity. And in the end, hopefully your life will be better, or, if you want to have children, that your children's lives will be better, You can only do that. But I would have never expected that this decision would have just been this awesome for me, and this life changing. So I'm really grateful. And I don't know if I've ever, I mean, Vince knows I love him like a brother. We actually just got back, my wife and I, from Montreal. Now that we live in New Hampshire, I only live 3 hours from Vince. So,
Right.
like, we drove up and Vince babysat my, like, 8-month-old niece while, like, me and my wife's sister and her husband had, like, a double date. So he babysat the niece for, like, 4 hours. And then the next night, we had a boys' night out with me, my brother-in-law, and Vince, and we went to dinner, and then we had some drinks, and we had a great time.
Yeah.
So it's nice to. That's one great thing about New Hampshire. Now I'm like close to Vince. I can just drive up. But we talk every day about system, and like I really feel like I've gotten like a brother like
It's
out of
interesting to
it. So.
me that like because like I came to my first NABC was in Memphis, and I had played a sectional with Gavin right before that, and I had watched In the Cards where he and Vince were partners, and I never knew, like I knew that he wasn't playing with Vince, but I never knew like how that sort of broke down. So it's interesting that he was the one that put to me that he put
Yeah, I
us
mean,
together.
I think it was years later. I mean, like, I think Vince and Gavin stopped playing sometime in their earliest 20s. And then this was sort of like I think I was like, so I think it was like probably like a 5-year span or a 6-year
Mm,
span,
mm,
something like that. I think, and truthfully, like Gavin and Vince quit playing, but they did not, it was not like, I never want to talk to you again, quit playing.
right,
It was just like,
right.
look, it's not the right time for both of us. We're both doing other things. I mean, Gavin went and started a family, and Vince moved to Australia for a couple of years and was playing bridge there and doing that. And then he came back and started a family. So, like, it just, I mean, I think that happens more frequently. And I think it was good for both of them, Like, I don't think that I mean, who knows? But, like, I don't think that either one of them would trade the situation. I think, they had played so much and they were very good, very talented, very successful. But I think it was just like a time in both of their lives that it was time to move on.
I have another question that's potentially going to get cut from the thing, but I want to know
Okay,
about
fire away.
Vince getting the vaccine.
Yeah, I mean, well, I mean, he's somebody that likes to know all the information given to him. And
Yeah,
he's also somebody that isn't going to trust people that truthfully aren't like validated in their things, and he sees a lot of things that are incorrect from both sides. I mean, he lived in Montreal, which was actually like one of the more repressive, lockdown sort of rules.
yeah, yeah.
And I'm not gonna lie, their government is not the local Montreal government, like they say different things,
Yeah.
and I don't think that they're the most reputable. It seems like
But
there's
what
a
was
lot
it
of
like
people
between the
going.
two of you? Like between the two of you about
I
that?
mean, look, I am super pro vaccine. I
Yeah.
think the science is unequivocal. I am less pro vaccine mandate. I do not feel that the government should be telling you what you can and put in. I mean, I realize that like the government now is not supposed to be like the government, from a long time ago, but like if there's any lesson we learned about like the Tuskegee experiments, it's that the government isn't always telling the truth. And sometimes they're doing what they think is better for the whole good and for whatever, but like sometimes they're not always telling the truth. I mean, I do know, the run on the hospitals was like my main sort of reason why. I mean, I'm less against vaccine mandates than I think I would be because our hospital system was not equipped to handle all the
Right.
COVID patients. And,
Right.
you know, whether or not you have COVID or not, if you get into a car accident and you have like a broken leg and you can't get treated for it and you die because there's so many people who have COVID that are in the hospital, well, that's a much more serious problem than COVID itself. So I think Vince was very skeptical, and he remains skeptical to this day. But I think that actually it was just like knowing that we were going to play the team trials, like because he had gotten it like just before the team trials, right? And knowing that we were going to play the team trials, and then when we won, I think he was like, okay, I haven't really like, died of something from it, so it seems like it was a good thing that I got it. But I think to this day, both of us are pretty skeptical about the direction that our governments are heading in. I can't say we're doing anything about it, but,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, like, I look at the news every day, and I mean, there's one side I completely think is going off the rails. And there's another side that I don't think is really competent either, So like I kind of just wish I could take like some of the smartest bridge players and make my own team of government. And I think I'd be the best at like making some bridge players and making a government, or like people I know in my life. I feel like if I could make a federal government to run, I feel like with the people I've met in my life, I could make a way more successful government, than our current ones. And I'm not saying they get everything wrong, but I think as I get, like as a young kid, I was super skeptical. And I thought as I would get older, that would sort of die down a little bit. And it hasn't really died down as much as I would have thought it would have. But, I think Vince also is very skeptical of things. And, he always wants all the information, wants to make sure that it's actually factual information. And that's what I think leads me to believe from his vaccine hesitation. You know.
It was just fun for me to see him in Austin, knowing that I think he hadn't played the trials or something,
Right, yeah.
and just being like, just as a total like bystander, his friend, but to needle him,
Right, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, and I'm sure that he gets
oh.
that from, from people, but truthfully, I think that he might look at like some of the people and be like, look, I know, I mean, maybe not everything you're reading is right, like let's be a little bit, And even me, like, I mean, I was trying to get the vaccine early, and I remember that like I would get turned away because it wasn't like my turn, and I would wait in line outside a Kmart. That's where they were giving vaccines at the time. And at the beginning, they were throwing away vaccines that they didn't use that
Right.
day.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then people started waiting, and they would never open a new batch. Like they would only give the vaccines for a leftover batch. So it was only, I think in each batch, maybe
Mm,
there was like six
mm,
vaccines. So you had to be
oh wow.
1 through 5 in the line.
Wow.
So I took
Wow.
my tailgating, like my college football tailgating chair, and I got in line and I would play bridge online on my phone from the line of the vaccination thing. And that's what I did for like, I think I did it over like a 2 week period. I think I did it for like 7 hours a day,
Oh
like
my
at
God.
least like 3 days,
Wow.
like a week or 3 or 4 days a
Wow.
week. And one day I didn't even think it was going to happen. I like showed up, like, because you had to wait like 7 hours because that's where 1 through 5 were in, you know?
Wow.
One day I showed
Holy
up
shit.
like randomly at the very end because Allison was making dinner. And it was like they closed at like 6:30 or something. So Allison was
Yeah.
making dinner and she's like, "Why don't you just go see? Like if you can get a vaccine." I'm like, "What are you talking about? There's like," I mean, she's like, "You never know." And I'm like, "All right, fine." And I go and they're like, "Nobody leave." They're like, "We're gonna have a lot today," or something
Oh my
like that.
God.
And I don't know why it
Wow.
was that, why it was that specific day. So I think I got mine like maybe a couple months before my age was sort of like allowed. But it was
Yeah.
just like also very like they thought that there was going to be this huge run on the vaccine, so they wouldn't give it. And if like the vaccine was really like such a life-changing thing that they were saying, then why are they not giving the vaccines to everybody who wants them? Like why are they turning away? I don't care if you from the hours of 9 to 6:30, you make sure that anybody with a pre-existing condition or anybody over 70 years old, they're the only people that can get vaccines. But like if at 6:30 at night, you have 30 people who want vaccines, we're not talking 3,000 people. We're not talking 30,000 people. We're talking 30 people. That 30 people is not going to make a run on the vaccine. It's only going to be 30 more people that are going to spread the virus later. So I don't know. It was a whole, I mean, I could talk hours about just vaccines, but yeah. But I do love, because I think I was there when you gave him that shit in Austin. Like I think we were standing like right next to it. And yeah, I mean, it was funny, because like I'm like gonna knock him, like I played a team trials. I'm playing half with Gavin, half with Warren. I'm like, I mean, I played with Gavin before in many team trials, and like Gavin and I always seem to like come back to the same, like like we'll have these and we play nothing. There's like no way we are playing anything, like Gavin doesn't want to do it, and I'm totally fine with that. And all we did for this tournament actually was like we just played Gavin and Warren's card, you know, and
Literally
I
their convention card.
the exact convention card, and I read everything that was in because I was going to play a set with Warren, right? So I read
Yeah.
everything that was in Warren's notes, and I just said, "Okay, Gavin, pretend like you're playing with Warren." That's what's going to happen. Like every bid, it's not like, "Oh, would Cran do?" Obviously, like my preamps are less sound than Warren's, so Gavin's gonna know that, right? But like we played standard carding with Warren, Gavin and I played upside down. I think that was the only change. Like I might be wrong, but like I think that was like the only change. And so that was fine, I mean, like we lost like a close match to Nickel, and then we played like a good team that was like three pairs of like good players. I was like Mike Camel, Mike Becker, Haymont Law, Peter Weichsel, and Kit Woolsey and Bart Bramley.
Yeah.
And I mean, like that, also that match, I felt like we kind of got unlucky, but like they played good. They had a couple hands where they played like a 4-0 fit at like the sixth level. So like a couple like 24 imps, just like kind of like free a little bit there. And then I think we were down 10. Although in this last team trials, I think we were also down 10 in the nickel match going into the last round. And then the last set in both team trials, like I just like they're so close together that they like kind of
Yeah.
run together a little bit. In the first one, we were like down 10. I think we won the last set like 53-3, you know?
Mm.
And then in this last one, we were down 10. It was the first time we were losing, I think, in this match against Nickel in the final. And we won the last set 50 something or like 40 something to 3. So like they were like very similar last rounds, to be able to qualify for the Bermuda Bowl was playing like a tight grinding out match, like losing a lead or like not having the lead going into the last quarter, and then like kind of just like trying to play tough and having things go your way, and then all of a sudden it's like 40-0.
When
And
did you
that's
know? When did you
what
know in this team trials that you won?
in those team trials. I mean, so like the first board, I had like you go over hands while you talk. Like, can I give a hand?
Yeah, sure, of course.
Okay, okay. So like this is my first board of like the final against nickel. So it was like queen third, stiff queen, ace jack 10 fourth, and queen 10 9 fifth. Okay, so that's 2, 4 plus 5 is 9 plus 2 is 11 points, right? So I had
Yeah.
11 points, and I think everybody was like not vulnerable, right? That's like usually the first board is not vulnerable, but I don't know if like, but anyways, so I opened a club. All right.
Yeah.
And our style is to open light. I think I have a good 5 card suit. I have like crap on the outside, don't get me wrong. And that
Yeah.
might
Yeah.
take away, but like I have a good 4 card suit and I have a good 5 cards, a fine 5 card suit, the 10-9
Yeah.
of club. Right. So I open a club, and if I had a stiff little heart, I might open a diamond and rebid 2 clubs because I don't like to rebid a no trump with a singleton little, but a singleton queen, I was like, all right, I'm gonna live with it.
Right. Yeah.
So I opened a club and Vince bid a heart, and I bid a no trump, and now he bid, I think 2 no. Yeah, he must have 2 no, which was like a relay to 3 clubs. Okay, and now whatever either he's gonna pass and we're gonna play 3 clubs, or he's gonna bid 3 diamonds would be short diamonds with 4 hearts exactly, and in this instance it would be 5 clubs or more. 3 hearts would be short spades. 3 spades and 3 no would be like 5 4 2 2, but like hands that 3 no's. Like, look, I have 4 hearts and I have 5 clubs, but I really probably should have just bid 1 no 3 no, you know. And 3 spades is like I have 4 hearts and I have 5 clubs, but I'm 2 2, but I have like a slam try. Like I don't want to maybe go above, but if you have that great hand, we could easily have a slam on light high cards.
Right. Right.
So he bid 3 diamonds, showing short diamonds. Well, now I'm like, well, my hand's getting pretty good here. I got this piece of cheese 11, like just piece of cheese, right? And, but like, I mean, I have 5 trump, which at this point I could have had 3,
Yeah.
you know? I got a stiff heart, but it's stiff queen. So, like, if I catch some, things there. So it goes 3 diamonds, showing short diamonds, and now it goes double.
So you
And
redouble?
so I could have redoubled to just show the ace, right?
Yeah.
But I got in my head, I'm like, look, high card wise, I'm still light. I have ace jack 10 fourth of diamonds, which is a diamond holding that is almost impossible for him to believe that I have. I might have ace jack third of diamonds, or something if I
Right.
redouble and then bid 3 no. But like ace jack 10 fourth is really like, that's 3 stoppers, not just 2. And in hindsight, I should have redoubled, and next time I would just redouble 100% of the time. But I, for some reason, just was like, all right, I'm just gonna bid 3 now. And I bid 3 no, and we played 3 no cold for 6 clubs. And the other table also missed 6 clubs on like an auction that should have been easy. So like there we missed a slam. Then the next board was like a close slam that you could bid, but it was like hard. And then we sort of had like a bunch of like vulnerable games that we made that were like touch and go. You
Did you
know?
bid the slam on the second board or
No,
not?
no, neither page. But like we could have been down 23 more imps, but like or
Right.
24. So
Are you
turns
thinking about that, or have you forgotten about it?
I would say I'm thinking about it a little bit. I mean, I'm not letting it truly affect but like I think later I had an 8 count with I think I had 4 hearts but like I had like a jack 10, I had like a 10 9. So it was the kind of hand where like if all my spots were working, it was gonna be a better playing, but it's really like only an 8 count. And Vince opened 1 no, and like I was just like, okay, 3-0,
Oh,
because
did you
like,
have
I
a
mean,
5 card suit?
no, I think it was 4-3-3. I might have
Vulnerable?
had vulnerable. So I mean, like, I'm a big fan of bidding vulnerable game, and
Yeah.
also, I mean, it's like kind of like the Hampson rule. He said like you pretty much almost would be better off at bridge if you just open a no trump on every hand and bid 3-0 on every hand, and like let them lead, So I was like, well, Hampson's at the other table. I don't know what seat he's in, but if it goes 1-0, he might just bid 3-0. He might not because they play like a 14-16, whereas Vince and I play a 15-17. So I
Yeah.
kind of thought that this was like a little bit, like a little bit something I might not do all the time. But if I was down 10, if I happen to be down 33, this would be a nice. And if I wasn't, maybe it wasn't such a big, thing. So I jumped to 3-0. It went all past. And like now Bobby was on lead. I think he didn't really have a great lead. I think it didn't really matter that Vince was kind of always going to make 3-0. But at the other table, it went like a no trump. And then it went like pass. I want to say like two clubs showing the majors. Yeah, two clubs showing the majors. And that went like double. And they ended up having like a misunderstanding about a double, or somebody made a bad double, I think. I mean, it was like they had like 9 clubs between them. And they ended up doubling two spades when they were like white, when we were red, with 9 clubs. And so they ended up doubling two spades, and Johnny and Kevin made that,
Oh my
which I
god.
never really would have assumed that they made that.
Yeah,
But like
sure.
I would never, but I felt good about the like 1-0, 3-0 all pass making 3 or 4, whatever it was. And then it just felt like we had like a lot of like not losable positions. And then there was another one interesting hand I had where it was like,
How worried were you when you're watching the play in 1-0, 3-0? Like, how closely were you watching the play?
I usually try to use that time as downtime for my brain.
Even though you've made you've made an aggressive bid.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, whatever. I'm gonna see the score at the end.
Right,
I mean, like, so that's fine. And I'm just using that time to sort of let my brain rest. And trust me, like, if I'm playing with a client, of course, it's my duty to, watch the play of the hand, and so I can offer some, insight as to what maybe they should be doing the next time, or whatever.
Yeah.
But when I'm playing with Vince, it's like, psh, like, go, you do your thing, man, because like nothing feels better than like him
Yeah,
opening a no
yeah,
trump and me
yeah,
getting to
yeah,
bid 3-0 and be
yeah.
like, go get him, dude. Like I don't know if your viewers know this, but like Vince Demouy is like, he is like sick skilled at playing the cards. He is like he reads positions so early in a hand. And like sometimes like he'll tell you this, like sometimes he just gets ahead of himself and he like plays the wrong card when he meant to play another card. And that's usually his mistakes, are like getting ahead of himself,
Right.
and maybe, he's not too fast to play, but like that's what his sort of mistakes
Right.
are. But
Yeah.
like in terms of figuring out the hand, like he figures it out quick. It might be like an opening lead, a win, and a shift, and he'll know the whole hand. And it's
Oh my
like,
god.
all right, and I've seen it all the time,
Yeah.
like, and if it was like a regional, I watch just for fun because like who knows what I'm gonna learn from him, at any point. But in the finals of the team trials, that's a moment to, take some rest, go to the restroom, have some water,
Who's your
and get your
street
thing
mate
done.
in this final?
In the last set, it was Bobby.
Bobby Levin.
Yeah, and I think I was with Steve Weinstein a couple times, and I was with Bobby most of the time. I would say I think I was with Eric once. I was never with Nick or Ralph. I don't think we ever played them. Oh, yeah, I don't think we ever played them. And I was with Bobby more often, and I think I was with Jeff. So I think I was with like Eric once, Jeff once, and then I would have played like 6 sets. So I must have been with like Bobby 3 times and Stevie once.
Got
That's kind of what I think.
Yeah.
I don't really remember, but that I do remember the last set being with Bobby, and him being like at the end of the match was like, "Oh, good job, you won by like 40 or 50 this set," and that's like, well, like he knew. Right.
He hadn't looked at the score.
I don't think he had looked at the score. At least it was like right, like as we still hadn't finished the last board. You know, he's like, dude, you won by 50. Yeah. Like he just
Really?
like, yeah, it just shows like how Bobby Levin pretty much knows what's going on all the time. You know, I was like 50. That's a big number, and like it turned out, I mean, and he's always gonna over exaggerate, a little bit. So like probably, when he says 50, it might be more in the 25 or 30 to 25, somewhere around that range, like if Bobby Levin ever comes to you and says, we had a great, great, great set, it means you won by 175 and it will go into the record books as the greatest set ever played. It's like 1100 minimum on every hand. I mean,
But these tablets, so the Trials was played on the tablets for the listeners.
right.
And you could look after the set was over, you could look and you could see the score.
Right. So you could look, as soon as the last card was played, it would just show up like on your screen, just like a little like tally of the results from each table and then the score. So, I mean, sometimes earlier in the thing, you click just to see how you did in the set and then you go out and you compare. That was pretty much the standard. This last set and I think also the last set before in the last year, I try not to on the last set look at the score.
Right.
So like this last set, I didn't look at the score, but like I walked up the stairs. Their team is like right to the right. They say congratulations. So I'm like, well, my team's not even there. My team's outside. I'm like, I'm coming out by myself. So I come out and they're like, congratulations. I'm like, thank you. So now I'm like, yeah, buddy. And then like I turn to the left and see my team. Like they come out and they're like, I think Johnny, just to mess with me, he was like, sorry. And I was like, dude, I already heard. He's like, okay, fine. Like, good play. Hey, like, so I mean, it's wonderful, and they have that team trials in Schaumburg. And I think I've been there like 100 times now. And like some years I'm like, God, I can't believe I'm back at this place. But like, now I'm just like, you know what? I know I'm going to go to Schaumburg in May. That's like going to be my thing. It's going to be like sometime around Mother's Day. I'm headed to Schaumburg and I know exactly what I do. I get in like a day early or 2 days early. I go to Whole Foods. I buy all my food for like the first week. They have a falafel place that's like a 5-minute drive or like a 2-minute drive. I do that every day for lunch.
Oh my god.
Same thing. I order the same thing. It's like lettuce, half rice, falafel bowl with like hummus, baba ganoush, muhammara, and like sometimes double muhammara. It's like the same thing every day.
God.
Yeah, it is pretty funny because I look at like my credit card statement and it's just the same thing. It's just like falafel, and like I would get like when I was by myself, it was like $14.92, like, but it was like 8 of those in a row, and that was the only thing on my credit card, and then it would be like Marriott, $1,400 or Hyatt Regency is what it is, But yeah, now I've just sort of come to embrace Schaumburg and, be like, oh, great, here we go, like when I was younger, I played with a guy named Simone Deutsch, may he rest in peace, greatest player to play with, but we'd go to Morton's every single night. So it was just like eating like steak and potatoes and like just getting completely full every single night. And like now I try to be vegan or plant-based as much as possible. And so we go to different places that I can do that at,
Right.
And I haven't been back to Morton's and I think it's been 10 years or something. So
Did you guys run the boards after? Did you actually compare? Did you do the comparison?
Yeah. I always do the comparison just for the sake of doing the comparison. Yeah. But truthfully, I was not paying attention. They told me we won. They read the comparisons. I didn't remember at the time I don't remember any board. I just remember I missed a slam on the first one and I bid 1-0, 3-0 with 8 points. And then later I had some hand where I had a heart void and they had stopped in 3 hearts. And it's like the rule. Like, I have no business double. Like, if they bid like 3 hearts past 6 hearts, I wouldn't have doubled. But when they stop in three and you have no trump, it means, and Vince couldn't make a penalty double on the hand. So
Yeah.
I was like a little bit light on points. I didn't really want to compete, but it just felt like 100% of the time Vince was passing. And it was like, it was a hand where like, honestly, hearts could have been like 7-6-0-0, like around the table, and like nobody would know what to do. So I doubled and then like the dummy hit with like a hand that I would have expected to like sort of raise to four hearts maybe. But they were on the same page that they wouldn't. But Vince just had like a monster. Like he had like king queen 10 fit the hearts. He had like another queen. He had another king. I mean, it was just and another jack or something. Like he had an opening bid with king queen 10 fit the hearts, and I'd shown an opening bid. So like.
And he was over the heart.
Yeah, and he was behind the hearts. Yeah, yeah. I mean, like he was just like, oh my God, Cran, if you double, it's just like not gonna be, like not gonna be possible. And then I come back doubling, he's like, my man, yeah. And I'm over there like, I mean, excuse my language, but like I was not feeling good. Like the D was going, and like I remember it was like I forget, like he like led something, they won, they like were able to cross the dummy. Guess a suit on the way back. They came with another thing. Vince like led like a high card in one suit, like intending to stay on lead.
Yeah.
And I overtook, and once I overtook, I was like, "Oh man, why'd I do that?" Like Vince was like, "Keep me on lead, partner," and I was like, "No, I have no idea what to do, but I'm gonna at least get on lead." Like it's like. And then eventually it was just like, okay, plus 300. And like, I think we maybe could have got 500, like if I had done the other thing, but like plus 300, I was fine with that. Those were like the only four hands I kind of remember. And everything else, it seemed like we were solid. Like we competed in the right part scores. We bid our games that were bid at the other table, and so it just felt like both of them felt sort of the same. It felt like we did not do a lot wrong, but if your teammates come back with a terrible set, we were going to lose. And both times our teammates came back with the same opinion we did, which was we didn't do a lot wrong. If our teammates have a really, really bad set, we're going to lose. If our teammates have a bad set, we might lose. If our teammates have a good set, we're gonna win handily. And both times it was the same situation. Both sides had good, clean sets, and you won by 50.
Was your screen mate declaring the three hearts doubled, or was it the other?
No, it was the other way. It was not my screen mate.
What did Bobby say about that hand?
I mean, he sort of like knew more. He expected more or less than I expected from Stevie's hand, because at some point it was like trick whatever, and Bobby was like, Vince has probably got like king queen jack fit the heart. And I'm like, no way. And then like the next card that comes out of Vince's hand is king of heart. I'm like, okay, I'm in. Like it was funny because it was like a hand that I had told Stevie he probably shouldn't have bid, and he agreed. However, he did say that he felt like he was down at that point, and it went like three clubs from his partner, three diamonds, and they play a little gadget where three hearts is non-forcing. So he thought, well, if I can find a four heart game on this hand, it's like such a home run, and it feels like I'm losing the match, so that could be like a really big, sort of advantage here where the other side's not going to get to find that. So he bid like a little marginal three hearts, caught like a hand that I would think might raise to four hearts, but him and Bobby both knew that hand does not raise to four hearts. So they were on the same picture there. But yeah, I mean, I just remember like he was like, yeah, Vince has like great hearts, and I'm like, no. And then the king of hearts comes out, and I'm like, yeah, buddy. All right, like we gonna beat this now. I'm like, oh man. But that was like a fun hand because it was just like, it was honestly like you have a void and they've stopped at three. It means your partner is trap passing, and it's like a good lesson. I had a crazy hand with my mom once, and I'll leave you with this, but I had, forget what my exact hand was, but I want to say it was like 5 little, singleton, 4 little, 3 little. Okay. And I was like white in first chair. Okay. Or maybe I was white, I think. And I opened a club, psyching, playing with my mom against like Mark Itabashi and another player. I forget who it was. But I opened a club, just completely psyching. Okay. And it goes 3 hearts and it goes pass, pass.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, yay, it worked, I have no points, wonderful. I'm so good. Like, dancing up and down. And so I passed. And then the play goes like a certain way. And turns out my mom had like 18 high with like ace, queen, 10, 8, fourth of hearts and was just waiting for the reopening double. And, like, and it's kind of weird because like if you look at this hand, even though you've opened a 0 count, like they bid 3 hearts and then they pass and you only have 1 heart. It probably means your partner's trap pass and maybe you should reopen double, So I tell that story like kind of in jest and as a joke, but in reality, it's not so far off, so.
Oh my God. Oh, this was a lot of fun, Craig.
Yeah, I had a great time. Thanks a lot for having me, on the show. I was a little bit offended, I'm not gonna lie, when I looked and saw how many people you've interviewed already. That I wasn't like, I don't gotta be number 1. I don't gotta be number 5 on your list. I'm like number 47, Like I feel like you're scraping the barrel a little bit here, And I know that's not true, I mean, it's a wonderful thing what you're doing. Very cool. You're helping out of Junior Bridge and your documentary that you made is really good for the game. And at some point in my life, I promise I'm going to do more for the young players of this game. And a lot of that is going to be because of you and what you're doing for the young players of the game. Sadly, some of it may be a lost cause, but as long as we have people like you to, at least try and keep running, it shouldn't be a time that we give up because Bridge is just like best game ever. And I can't even, I love it so much. And I think that pretty much everybody who takes the time to learn the game ends up just loving it so much. And really what you do for it is wonderful, John.
Well, that's quite an exit from you. I appreciate it. And I definitely there's a lot more questions that I want to ask you, so we'll have to do it again.
Yeah, some other time. Let's do a Johnny Crand round 2. Yeah, for sure.
All right,
We'll talk about maybe you'll give me some golf tips. About rotating my hips. We'll see.
All right, man. We'll enjoy the U.S. Open this weekend. If you're going to watch some golf,
I'm
check on that Dartmouth Bridge team too.
Yeah. Actually, I think I might actually do that. I'm going to play a couple regionals, but when I come back, I'm going to actually live about maybe 3/4 of a mile away from like the main Dartmouth courtyard. So I won't be far from wherever they're having the Bridge group meeting. If they're having it. So we'll see what happens. But thanks for having me, man.
Yeah,
and you be good, homie.